Okay, so I did a giant book haul a while back, and it was probably the largest, at least I've ever seen on BookTube, because my dad just gave me a fifth of his massive collection, or less than that, probably more like a tenth. And well, we're gonna do part two, and this is the hardcover edition, because all those were paperbacks. Now I got a ton of hardcovers coming in. For that, I want to address a kind of strange thing I noticed on my channel. I was going through I spiked in Twitter followers recently, and I was just going through some of the people who started following me, and something from their bios that's pretty consistent stood out. One, a lot of people saying they're book nerds, duh. And two, a lot of people saying they're conservative, which I found rather strange because I've made my liberal views pretty well known on this channel and prevalent. And it took me a couple minutes to really realize that I've somehow reached out and made a connection with several conservatives who I disagree with on core fundamental things, but they're willing to still listen to what I have to say and have a dialogue back and forth. And I just appreciate that on a very real level. One of my favorite types of conversations to have is a disagreement, a discussion about fundamental views on how the world works and what really is important, what the fundamental basis of basically politics, religion, all these things are, really take them down to their core. And if I've somehow managed to reach out to at least a few of you watching conservatives, I consider that to be a real accomplishment, and I respect you for following me, even though you know we disagree, because yes, I don't respect maybe some of your opinions, and you maybe don't respect some of mine, but the fact that we can still listen, the fact that there can still be some kind of discord, me in the videos and you in the comments and me responding to your comments, is pretty much my favorite thing about BookTube. Whether it's discussing books that we disagree on opinions on, whether it's discussing politics, because often politics come up in books, it's something that I really cherish, and one of my favorite aspects of this whole experiment I've been working on for going closer and closer to 3 years every day. Moving on past that, let's go ahead and jump into a gigantic, wow, there's many boxes here, unhauling of hardcover books that I have now inherited. Starting off with my third editions of Lord of the Rings books, the first hardcovers of Lord of the Rings I've ever owned, with some absolutely stunning art along the box that contains the 3 books. I am absolutely in love with them, and every cover, of course, has its own unique art that brings it home. And these are something special because I've seen these in my dad's library since I was, I want to say, about earliest memories. Moving on in, we have another classic series coming through. Harry Potter. A lot of first prints of Harry Potter from when it first came out in America. Sorry, I can't really say first prints of Harry Potter because the first prints were only released in the UK, at least for the first book, I believe, and then the other prints came to the United States, or at least the first print came to the United States later, and it was renamed for some reason. Still don't get that. Still don't get why they called it the Philosopher King, or the, wow. I don't get why they changed it to the Sorcerer's Stone here, not the Philosopher's Stone. I've heard many people say it's because they think we're too stupid. I guess we'll have to just accept that as how British people view us, but here we go. First American print of the Sorcerer's Stone, at least I believe first American print. I know at least the later ones are first. And these are actually going to be fewer books than, because hardcovers take up way more space, but there's still 3 more boxes. Ugh. Now, from here on out, I'm not really sure what we're getting into. Packed these up without me really watching or knowing, so it's going to be a surprise all around. We have, Douglas Adams, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. You guys know how I feel about Douglas Adams. I love absurdism. I love Hitchhiker's Guide. Oh, and speaking of life, the universe, and everything, and then not any more hitchhikers, it looks like. But I'm happy to see some, or at least some in the same vein from Douglas Adams made it in. We have Camber of Cooldy by Catherine Kuntz. Never even heard of this, but I know for a fact my dad pulled this one aside and told me it's extra good. And then, we have some books by one of the greatest authors of all time, someone my dad personally met, and I'm going to have him tell you guys that story one day. Isaac Asimov, I, Robot, and Asimov, Nemesis. And this is something I pointed out to my dad, and I don't think he noticed it until I pointed it out, but it's absolutely true. Every spaceship from classic sci-fi covers, super phallic. All of them, across the board. It's a real thing. Once you see it, you'll never unsee it. More Asimov, Isaac Asimov, the robot novels, The Caves of Steel, The Naked Sun. Yeah, I'm gonna need to put more Asimov on my channel. I know classic sci-fi reviews don't typically get a lot of love from you guys, but you'll have to deal with it because I love me some classic sci-fi, and you guys might not watch my reviews of classic sci-fi. I'm just going to keep doing it anyway because that's how I do it. The Treasury of Great Science Fiction. I have no idea what this is. It looks old, and it looks like a bunch of short stories. I love short stories. Wow, this has dust shooting out of it when I flip through pages. That's old. Moving on. The Knights and Knave of Swords by Fritz Leiber, very well-known author, one of the greats. Very interesting cover art. I like that quite a bit. Very stylized people coming through there. Old covers were better than modern covers. I'm so sick of modern fantasy covers. Just people standing with swords and women and robes. It's even worse and more boring than classic fantasy covers. At least those had personality to them. Mary Stuart, The Wicked Day. Never heard of this, but I'm sure it's good. And some of these, oh my god, wait, did my dad give me the signed copy of iRobot? I hope not, because that's too much pressure for me. Don't think so. He probably kept that for himself, because when he met Asimov, he had him sign a bunch of books. This one's not signed, thank God. I don't like that kind of pressure. His Dark Materials. Hey, I was actually right. The Subtle Knife. I saw it was in there, just randomly grabbed. The second one, arguably where it really started going downhill. I know it went downhill. I still like it. Deal with it. The Golden Compass. First one, and I think really holds up still. You don't need to read the whole series, but I think this story in itself is contained enough that you can really fall in love with it, and you don't necessarily need to move on past it. But I still think this is a must-read for fantasy, and helps really bridge from classic to modern well effectively as well. Pierce Anthony, Being a Green Mother. That's strange. That is very strange. And yeah, classic depiction of women in fantasy. That's what they typically look like. Blonde hair, blue-eyed, tits out. Classic fantasy cover art mantra. Pierce Anthony, Wielding a Red Sword. I really hope this is just a book that's like a manual of how to wield a red sword, specifically red swords. Okay, maybe not all classic fantasy covers were as good as I was saying, because the last couple I've pulled out have been not great. And more Isaac Asimov, The Complete Robot. My dad said he didn't like this cover that much. I like it. I like the subtle little robot arm coming in right there. I think it's cute. I like minimalism in my covers sometimes. Some nice, just subtle things. That's the second box down. Moving on. Okay, don't drop. The collector's edition that came out fairly recently of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Very pretty. I know that some people hate on these as being kind of like gimmicky additions to books to own. I can see where you're coming from, but they're still pretty. They're still nice, and you know, they feel good in your hand, and that's really what matters with the book, as long as it's comfortable to read. The original Harry Potter books, do not like them because they have those slip covers, and I hate slip covers. Slip covers are terrible. If you're an author, don't do it. This has no title. Oh, yeah, it does. Golden Apples of the Sun by Bradbury. You guys know how I feel about Bradbury. Fahrenheit 451 is incredible. He writes like a poet while he's telling a story all the way through, and I enjoy that. My dad doesn't like Fahrenheit 451 as much as me, and I think he's wrong, and I know he'll watch this video because he asked me to do this unboxing. So, Father, you're wrong. Fahrenheit 451 is incredible and on par with any other dystopian novel. You're wrong! Martian novels by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Trivia, Maids of Mars, The Chessmen of Mars, The Mastermind of Mars. What was their obsession with Mars back then? I guess, you know, right now Titan's the hot thing to put in your story. I feel like back then Mars was the Titan of now. Speaking of great character in book covers, this is what I'm talking about. You see this? This little wizard tripping out, little kid freaking out reading the book and somehow accidentally summoning the devil behind him. Most likely, nothing like that happens in this book. That is true. Very often, the scenes depicted on the covers, nothing to do with the actual story. And I just dig that. I think it's cool. Arthur C. Clarke, 2010 Space Odyssey. Odyssey 2, sorry. A daring romp through the solar system and a worthy successor of 2001. That is a review by Carl Sagan. Once again, cool things you see on covers back then that you don't see much now. If you guys don't know, 2001 A Space Odyssey is pretty much objectively the greatest movie ever made, and people who say otherwise are incorrect. You're wrong. This is actually a hardcover book I bought myself and my dad gave to me. So it must have ended up in his collection somehow, because I remember buying this in a bookstore. It's J.R.R. Tolkien's The Children of Hurin, which is actually, it was not finished. His son, Christopher, finished it for him. At least I think it's his son. And then we have Arthur C. Clarke, 2061, Odyssey 3. It was a trilogy, and you even have HAL 9000 creeping in the background right there. Look at him. My favorite villain of any sci-fi movie. That's a bold claim I didn't think through, but I'll stick by it, because that's the kind of guy I am. Star Trek Movie Memoirs by William Shatner with Chris Kreezer. Once again, surprised William Shatner could write, especially this much. My dad's a Kirk guy. I'm a Picard guy. You know, he can have his opinion. I can have my correct opinion. It's the way things are. I don't know why I'm turning this video and just subtly attacking my dad's opinions on things. Now this is interesting. This is actually not a hardcover, so this is not consistent, and the title of this video is a lie. But The Illustrated Dune by Frank Herbert. You guys know how I feel about Dune if you've been with me for a while or bothered to go back and watch some of my older videos, because I'm not the biggest fan of Dune. I think it's okay. I think the world building's alright. It doesn't really live up to the hype nearly as much. People still ask me to review Dune probably once a week, because apparently they don't think to check what I've already reviewed before asking me to review something else. So hint for the future, look first, ask second, please. I actually have this book in paperback, The Black Unicorn, with a green lady. It looks like the Jolly Green Giant's girlfriend, although much smaller, unless the scaling is weird. Focus on her. Come on, camera, you can do it. There we go. But also the unicorn looks very startled. I don't know if you can see that. It's a very startled black unicorn. It's the first time I've ever even heard of someone saying black unicorn. This is also another paperback, so I'm a dirty liar. The Atlas of Middle-earth, revised edition. This is something I'll be poring over continuously for a few months. Oh my god, this is my favorite thing I've pulled out.
That's what she said!
I love maps so much. I have a deep, deep love of maps. So, that's so cool. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, and they have fortresses. They have detailed dwarven mines. Story time. When I was a little kid, I spent like many hours just looking through road maps that my dad had in like the back seat of his truck growing up. So I would just pore over these maps. And I didn't memorize anything. It's not like I was memorizing roads. I would just like, okay, if I was a general, how would I deploy my troops? Or where would a town be? And I was such a nerd since I was a kid. It's never not been the case. I'm a huge nerd. And we have a hardback edition of the Atlas of Middle-earth. Wow, is it the exact same thing? It looks like it. Yep, it's the exact same book, but also in hardback. So I may have to do a giveaway of the paperback. So you guys might, on the Patreon, I might be doing a Patreon giveaway to someone of the paperback edition of the Atlas of Middle-earth. So I'll sign it if you want me to. I don't know if that's the thing. Would you want me to do that? I don't think so. Another book by William Shatner that, no offense to anyone who's a William Shatner fan, I don't care much about this. William Shatner is mundane. He embodies the word mundane in my opinion. Now we have Acme McAfee, Moretta, Dragonland of Pern. Once again, super badass cover coming through here. Focus on the cover, camera. Come on. There we go. Sick lady riding a golden dragon raptor thing. Star Trek Voyager, which is also better than William Shatner's Star Trek, factually. But a novelization of Catherine Janeway, who was a really good captain in Star Trek. Apparently Picard's coming back for another Star Trek run, which I'm excited to see. And I wonder why they didn't bring back Shatner. Why would they bring back Picard and not Shatner, Dad? Is it because Picard's better? The Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McAfee again. Not quite as well-drawn a cover of this book, but also just a much more stylized one, and honestly I might like that even more. That looks like an interesting series I might have to actually get into. Another book of mine when I was a little kid, just a dragonology book. This is what I read when I was a little kid. Some kids read like biology books, or some kids got into sports. I read dragonology because that's just the man I am. I go to the gym now to overcompensate for that insecurity, but you know, it's just the way it is. And now we have my favorite cover of all time. There is no cover than this book that I'm about to show you. I think I've shown it before on my channel, but I just want you to know that if you think there's a better cover out there, you haven't seen this book cover. I'm not overhyping it. I'm not overselling it. This is the Mona Lisa. It might be better than the Mona Lisa. Just straight up. It's not even an opinion. Factually, I think it's better. And if you've not seen the cover of Footfall by Larry Niven, you're missing out. Because one, there's an elephant holding a machine gun and a mirror, and the elephant looks terrified as these two people meander towards him, one of them holding a gun, one of them waving for some reason, as this scared elephant, who's clearly visible, not hidden at all behind this randomly piled up stack of wood, holds his machine gun with his two trunks, count them, and what looks like a blanket on his back. That right there, I've never read this book. I don't think I ever will, because I don't want context. I don't want to know. I just enjoy what this is on surface value so deeply. It's beautiful. Look how human his eyes are. Look how human the eyes of this elephant are. He has like the face and head of an old man weirdly, and the angle he's holding the mirror somehow reflects the woman waving in the back, even though the mirror is angled to clearly be pointing at the elephant's own face. It's just so much happening. Is there a justification for that mirror angling? Is there some kind of dimensional bending happening? I don't know. And these answers, I'll never get them, but they will haunt me until the day I die. That is my opinion on Footfall by Larry Niven and Jerry Pornival. The Hobbit, fairly old edition, I think, not super old. God, the context of what counts as old in today's society is weird, because some people say the 90s is old, and some people balk at that idea. I think this came out in the early 2000s or the 90s. Certainly before the Lord of the Rings books. Certainly before the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movie. And I'm too lazy to look for a date. And we have one more box. Another one of my favorite sci-fi books of all time coming through here. Childhood's End. Glorious book. And I might do another giveaway on the Patreon of the paperback I have of this, because now I have a hardcover that has a very interesting cover that, the eyeball, because of reasons. So I might do a giveaway for the paperback of that as well, which would be pretty cool. And I love Childhood's End. Such a good book. Fifth Planet by Fred Hoyle and Geoffrey Hoyle. Two brothers wrote this book that I've never heard of. And it might be the greatest thing ever put to paper. I just not know. Once again, not a hardback. I'm a dirty liar. You should unsubscribe and dislike the video. Please don't. Terry Brooks, The Wish Song of Shara, an epic fantasy. I'm so excited to reorganize my bookshelf to display prominently certain covers. I want to do that strategically. Problem is, I now have I'm surrounded by a wall of books that's just out of frame, and I have too many to possibly fit on my bookshelf. It'll be interesting to see what I'll be able to finagle there. Look for my next video tomorrow to see what I came up with. The Sword of Shara, an epic fantasy by Terry Brooks. Terry Brooks is underappreciated, and he's actually a great author. I like him. The Magic of May Return. I put in a word and that wasn't there. The Magic May Return by Larry Niven. Okay, a contender for best cover. A man having some kind of fit on a table as this woman talks to these two guys and is like, just ignore him. Don't give him the attention he wants. Focus on me and this magic trick I'm doing with my hands. I like giving stories to books that I'll never read in their covers. Ringworld Engineers. I don't have the first one, Dad, so why'd you give me the sequel? Now I need to somehow get the first one so I can read that to then get to the second one. You've been pushing me to read Ringworld for so long, and you give me the sequel without giving me the first. I have not been through this box. I might be about to pull out the first. Oh yeah, I am. Ringworld. Okay, so problem solved. And also one of the coolest covers I've ever seen. Talk about weird and awesome. This is coming up real soon. It's being bumped up my whole list because my dad wants me to read Ringworld, and I'm sure it's phenomenal. So this will be coming probably in the next 2 weeks. The Legacy of Heorot, Larry Niven, Jerry Pornival, and Stephen Barnes. They used to collaborate. They used to get authors together and build something. And I wish they would still do that. It'd be really neat to see Stephen King and Stephanie Myers bring you Twilight with murder. I don't know. A World Out of Time by Larry Niven. Very classic book. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. Haven't heard of it? Shame on you. You're a bad person. Larry Niven, In Space with a play button with lines through it. Not the best cover. A decent cover. I judge books by their cover. All right. Oh, The Mists of Avalon. This is a book that I saw in my dad's library since I was a little kid again, and now I'm just more or less curious to read it because I've been staring at it for 2.5 decades, 2 decades and 3 years, and it's also one of the thickest books. That's 2 C's right there, and I love me a thick book. Love me a thick book. Now we have a Heinlein trio. Oh, well, now I need to see what the trio. Okay, nope, appreciate the cover art. That is some trippy, amazing cover art. You don't want to read that based off that? Everyone judges books by their cover. That is a book you should be able to pick up. Okay, Heinlein Trio, The Puppet Masters. I really hope it's a lot like those classic horror movies. It only says that first one in the book sleeve. What are the other ones? Let's see. Oh, The Door into Summer. I think come on, where? Display them prominently. There we go. The Puppet Masters, Double Star, The Door into Summer. I'm sure they're all incredible. More Asimov coming through hard. You know how many books Isaac Asimov wrote? Look it up. It'll blow your mind and look it up because I don't remember the exact number, but he wrote more than any other author I'm aware of by a lot. The Foundation trilogy, arguably the greatest sci-fi books ever written, depending on your taste. Isaac Asimov, Foundation and Earth. Once again, check that cover art out. It's got personality. Modern fantasy and sci-fi covers do not have that. Look at the cover of like the best-selling recent sci-fi books, like The Martian. Nah, it's like a guy being blown in wind. You have Artemis. I don't know why I'm sticking with Andy Weir here, but you have just the words in a font, and that's very common now. And I like minimalism, but I need more than just the title in a font. All right, we have Pierce Anthony, Okay, a lot going on here as well. Let me try telling another story. So they're underwater, standing in a canoe, and they appear to be breathing, but I don't think they really are. What I think happened here was the man was like, this boat's gonna float, it's gonna do great. The woman's like, no, it's not. You're terrible at building boats. So he put it in the water, because look how low the sides are going. So obviously water spilled over. They sank right away. The woman was like, I told you so. And he was like, we're floating. We're perfectly fine right now. And he's just in utter denial that they are underwater. And if you look, she's even doing like the Office look at the camera thing. She's looking back at us like, that's the story. That is the entire book. No need to read it. That is what happens. It's 200 to 300 pages of that. Pierce Anthony, Out of Phase. Once again, so many things are happening in this book cover. We have boar men. They have the body of men and the faces of boars, which they're not a hybrid. It's just some guys that killed some boars and are wearing their head. I don't know if that's true, but I'm saying it. We have a dragon lizard monster coming around a tree, who doesn't look angry or aggressive, just curious, and a man riding a black unicorn. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is this the same black unicorn as before? Indeed it is. It is the same black unicorn as before. He's been going on some adventures. I did not just accidentally rip a cover a little bit. Oh man, we're running low on time. Okay, Isaac Asimov, Foundation's Edge. We have, The Book of Merlin by T.H. White, a sequel to a lot of the King Arthur stuff. I only can record 30 minutes at a time, and I'm at 27 minutes right now. Robots and Empire by Isaac Asimov. Really cool cover art. Okay, you saw it. Now we have The Robots of Dawn by Isaac Asimov. Man, not very great cover art. You could do better, Asimov. Isaac Asimov, The Prelude to Foundation. I'll have to read that, because I've never read that. Coming through strong here, we have Arthur C. Clarke, The Songs of Distant Earth. Interesting cover art. Check it out. And we're done. 3 more books. We have The Exploration of Space by Arthur C. Clarke with another phallic-shaped spaceship. They are all phallic-shaped in classic sci-fi. The Integral Trees, a stunning new novel by Larry Niven. Badass-looking chick on the cover. She's doing some kung fu poses, look like she's about to beat the crap out of you, and she probably could easily beat the crap out of me. That's just true. I hope you guys liked this unboxing. I tried to make it as interesting as possible. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Dad, why do you like Kirk? He's not better than Picard. And hit the Patreon if you want to support the channel and what I do here. Have a great day, y'all. And let me know if you want me to do more gigantic book loads in the future, because there's a lot of books around me.